The Bhagavad Gita, Part 3, Attaining Liberation Now. Chapter 13, Kshetra Kshetrajna Vibhaga Yoga, the field and its knower, distinguishing between matter and spirit. When the body falls, it is the spirit that remains standing. Arjuna's question. Arjuna asks, if divinity is everything in the world, Krishna, then what is the difference between the world and divinity? How can one distinguish between one's worldly body and godly soul? What is the difference between physical matter and the world of spirit? Krishna answers, the term field denotes one's physical body and everything else in the material world. The knower of the field signifies the intelligent principle that resides in, but is not really a part of, the body and all matter. This indwelling intelligence is the mysterious entity within that is close enough to watch what goes on in the field and yet stands somewhat separate from it. It is also referred to as soul or Atma. Krishna is the indwelling Atmic knower of the field. Arjuna, I am the knower of the field, the indweller in everybody and everything. I am the innermost self, the soul, the Atma in all beings. The ability to discriminate between the field and its knower is the utmost highest knowledge, as it requires a true understanding of both secular things and sacred knowing. So listen carefully. The field, Prakriti, the world of nature. Though quite intricate, this is a wondrous inquiry, Arjuna. The great sages in prehistoric ages discovered these profound truths through meditation and precise reasoning. Down through the ages, they expressed them through chants and aphorisms, Vedas, carefully balancing their deep love for God with rigorous questioning and understanding so that these truths would appeal jointly to the heart and the head. To know human consciousness is necessary before knowing nature and the 25 components of nature, the field. First, understand that truly knowing the field, the natural world, Prakriti, is not simply a process of listing the myriad items that comprise it. To understand nature itself, it is necessary to know something about human consciousness. To know something is to be conscious of it. You must become conscious of things in the world, that is, you know them, through the mechanisms of perception in your nervous system, sight, hearing, feeling, mind, and so forth. But the nervous system is itself a part of nature. That which you use to know the world, nature, is also nature. Thus, that which is known cannot really be separated from the knower of it. Also understand, Arjuna, that all of the natural world, all of Prakriti, originates in consciousness itself, the one supreme consciousness, divinity. In the natural world, supreme consciousness separates into many forces, both physical and mental, endlessly combining and recombining. Everything known or knowable stems from consciousness. Knowing this, one truly knows the field. 25 components of nature. The following are the 25 components of nature, the field, or Prakriti. First, there's the unmanifested, the Mahat, literally the great cause. This is a latent reasoning force, the first glimmering of an ego sense in the cosmos, an early, raw capacity to differentiate and decide, like a seed that drinks in moisture and is about to swell in size prior to sprouting. It is this unmanifested that gives rise to mind, matter, and energy. From this first comes the higher mind, intellect, buddhi, the discriminatory faculty, the ability to distinguish between real and not real, between the spiritual self and worldly self. From the buddhi comes the ego that we know, the principle of individuation, ahamkara, the I maker, which causes one to be aware of oneself as an apparently separate entity. From the ego principle is produced the lower mind, manas, usually referred to simply as the mind. Its job is to receive through the senses and process the messages received from the field and carry them to the intellect. Included here are certain subtle modifications of mind, desire and aversion, pleasure and pain, the experience of one's physical body, intelligence, the power to interpret, and the mental experience of physical stamina. Emerging from this level of mind are the 10 sense organs, indriyas, which are not physical organs per se, but sensory mechanisms or capabilities. From these 10 sense organs develop the 5 so-called objects of the senses, which are not solid objects, but the subtle essences in the world that attract the senses. These sense objects are sound, audibility, resonance, sonority, aspect, the look of something, shape, color, and brightness, feeling, tactility, texture, tangibility, taste, flavor, gustation, savoriness, and smell, olfaction, odors, scents, and fragrances. Lastly produced are the 5 age-old categories of components into which the mind organizes all worldly matter, the 5 basic elements of earth, water, air, fire, and space. These are the 24 constituents of inert matter that comprise the field. There is actually one more, the mysterious vital force, Atma, that infuses life into all this material. This makes up the total 25. The knower of the field, Purusha, cosmic consciousness. Qualities of the knower, intuitive knowledge achieved through possession of virtues and outlooks. Arjuna, I will now turn from the field to the qualities of the knower of the field. This intuitive knowledge is beyond intellectual knowing. It comes through possession of distinctive virtues and outlooks that, taken together, give rise to such knowing. The knower of the field is humble and harmless. Be like this knower. Know in your heart that all excellence emanates only from the divine. Be gentle, be forgiving of any hurt received, be upright and harmonized in thought, word, and deed. Serve your teacher and imbibe his or her good traits and disposition. Be pure of mind. Escape the worldly deluge of mental pollution, because purity is indispensable to your spiritual growth. Detach from ego. Be detached from egoism, selfishness, and the attractions of the world. Do not see yourself as this body-mind complex that suffers the pains of bondage to birth, death, and rebirth. Know instead that you are Atma, the eternal reality beyond all that. Meet the inevitable good and bad of life with an even mind. To no one or no thing be a slave. Be tied neither to possessions nor family. Love and fulfill your responsibilities to spouse, children, home, and kin, but do not get so attached to them or identified with them that you forget Atma, your true self within. Be ever intent on divinity. Turn your back on social life and the commotion of the crowds. Prefer for now the company of like-minded individuals, and then, as you advance, sever even from them, but not as a hermit, rather as a detached yogi. Grow in wisdom through diligent inquiry into the nature of self and non-self. Only divinity is truth, Arjuna, and Atma is truly divinity. This I declare to be true knowledge. To seek anything else is to seek ignorance. Knowing the knower. The goal of spiritual wisdom, to realize the Godhead. Krishna continues, I will now tell you what you need to know to go beyond death to immortality. The goal of spiritual wisdom is to realize, to know in your heart, the supreme Godhead that is both being and non-being, both manifested and unmanifested. You are the eyes of the world. The Godhead dwells in all creation, in all hands and feet, in the heads of all beings as their eyes, ears, and mouths. It is itself devoid of senses, yet its subtle powers perform the tasks of the senses. This divinity is totally independent, yet it supports all things. The Godhead is beyond the 3 gunas of nature, yet it is the very consciousness in them. It is inside and outside all beings. The Godhead is both formless and with form. It moves and does not move. Its subtlety and mystery is incomprehensible to the non-purified mind. To the ignorant, the Godhead is distant. To the knowledgeable, it is near. Divinity is subtle and beyond comprehension. It appears to be many, but it is one undivided. Divinity sends creation out from within itself. It protects creation, preserves it, and dissolves it. The lamp beyond the darkness of ignorance. As the lighter of all lights, the Godhead, Brahman, dwells in each and every heart beyond the darkness of ignorance. It is the true self within, the sole goal of knowledge, and indeed, it is knowledge in itself. That is the truth about the field and its knower, about matter and spirit, body and soul. Devoted people who grow to understand this profound, mysterious truth are worthy to be united with me. The union of the field and the knower. The sublime essence of both physical matter, nature, gunas, prakriti, and spirit, or purusha, consciousness. Also know, Arjuna, that both nature and spirit, both prakriti, the field, and purusha, pure consciousness, are without beginning. Know that all of physical matter and nature evolves from consciousness. And know that all of nature and all the attributes of nature are nothing but the permutation and combination of the three guna qualities I mentioned earlier: calm goodness, sattva, passionate action, rajas, and dark lethargy, tamas. And know that nature, prakriti alone, is the source of everything in the physical universe. The cause of your body is nature, prakriti, but the cause of your aliveness, your experience of being an individual, feeling joy and sorrow in a particular body, is spirit, purusha. The jiva, spirit self, forgets its true nature, identifying with its body, and becomes attached to a predominant guna. This is the very process of egoism. This spirit self, jiva, that takes residence in a material body forgets its true nature, atma, and mistakenly identifies itself with that body. Thus, it becomes attached to nature, to the gunas. While the individual is a mixture of all three guna qualities, the one to which it is most attached predominates, and the individual becomes that type of a person, experiencing the behaviors, sensations, and delusions that are peculiar to that quality, becoming a generally calm, sattvic person, an active, rajasic person, or a lethargic, tamasic person. As the individual is now a part of nature, it is bound to participate in repeated births and deaths, the painful destiny of all matter. The Atma, the eternal witness. And yet remember, Arjuna, that the spirit, Purusha energy, dwelling in the individual body as Atma, is truly Brahman, the Godhead. This supreme being is spoken of as the following: the observer who watches and referees the game of life, the approver who permits it all to happen, the supporter who helps it all to happen, the enjoyer who experiences it all with gusto, but knows it is just a game. And most important of all, the master who holds complete dominion over all the events, though being unaffected by any of them. Jivan Mukti, the jiva who has experienced Brahman and is unburdened. When you have directly experienced the Godhead, Brahman, you will not be born again, because then you will truly know that the Divine One is beyond all this natural world of Prakriti and Gunas. The fire of this great knowledge will burn out all your karmas, and there will be no more motivating force within you to create another birth. Thus unburdened, you, in this state called Jivan Mukti, will duly perform all your duties in the world, and yet watch life with total peace. Paths to knowledge of Brahman. The paths to this great knowledge are several. Some realize it by building mind power through meditation, jnana yoga. Others do it by sharpening the intellect through acquisition of knowledge, jnana yoga. And yet others through performing selfless action, karma yoga. Whichever the path, if successfully walked, it eventually develops pure, single-minded love for God, bhakti yoga, union with God through devotion. When one reaches this level of divine love, one reaches the end. All existence is the result of the union of matter and spirit, field and knower. Whatever comes into existence, whether thing or being, is a result of the union between matter and spirit, the field and the knower. When the matter part of this union falls in death, the spirit part remains standing. Ordinary people do not see the spirit within, and therefore think that it is their own self that dies. Only when you see the underlying undying within the dying do you really see the truth. What fear of death? It is all already dead and good. The essential human empathy. Indeed, true seers, perceiving divinity in everyone, do no harm to anyone. The ones who don't perceive this unity separate themselves from others, seeing some as friends and others as foes. These are the ones who do harm. It is the illusion of separateness that causes all evils perpetuated by humanity. How can one who really knows Atma injure the same Atma in another? As I have often repeated, the true seer of Atma reaches the Godhead and leaves death and birth behind. All self-steered action is done through Prakriti. Atma is actionless. Seers of truth are aware that all action is done by the body, not by the spirit dwelling in the body, by Prakriti, that is, not by Purusha. They know that the body belongs to nature, and Atma belongs to the spirit. Thus they understand that the true self, Atma, is actionless, is never the doer. This requires a leap of thought. Action and the decision to act, self-steered action, comes about through nature and the understanding of karmic energy. When you, the ego self, are absolved in divinity, the spirit, the Brahman, is acting through you. You do nothing. You're simply the witness of the dharmic unfolding of the Tao or Dharma taking place. All are truly one. You must ultimately realize this tremendous lesson. All creatures, although appearing separate, are truly only one. All beings emanate from the Godhead and are united in the Godhead. The one who truly learns this becomes the Godhead and thereby attains liberation. Atma and Purusha have no beginning or end, untainted by karma, good or bad. The true self, Atma, as I have said, has no beginning and no end. It is beyond Prakriti. Though dwelling in the field, the body, this knower of the field does not act. It is therefore untouched by the fruits of action and untainted by karma, good or bad. Atma is like steam. This true self within is indeed mysterious, Arjuna. It is subtler than the subtlest. As water, when it is steam, its subtle state, defies being dirtied by its surroundings, Atma is never tainted, though it dwells in every creature. Finally, Arjuna, know that the goal is not to get entangled in the world, but to use the world to reach divinity. Use your eye of wisdom, your intuitive faculty, to distinguish between the field and the knower. Then you can actually cut yourself free from the field, from bondage to the worldly, and reach me, the supreme goal.